G'day cobbers, welcome back to the bush. In this episode of Lockie Hub's 4-wheel driving, we're going to be checking out roller Fairlead versus Aluminium Hawse for synthetic rope. What should you have bolted to the front of your 4-wheel drive? Let's get into it. So we're not going to be checking out steel wire rope in this video. We're going to purely focus on the synthetic rope. We'll be looking at where do one of these wear the rope more than the other, and what about additional load on your winch? Will one of these produce more load and therefore more load on your electrical system and shorter times of winching for your 4-wheel drive? And what about weight? Is one heavier than the other? Let's have a look at that. And here are the weights between the roller Fairlead and the Aluminium Hawse. Aluminium Hawse, pretty lightweight, not too bad, 594 grams. Now obviously it's going to be a bit more if you have to use an offset horse, but this one's a centralised horse, pretty light, 0.6 of a kilogram. When we moved over to the roller Fairlead, however, we're a little bit more weighty there at 5,333 grams, or 5 1/3 kilograms. It's nearly 900% heavier. Now, in the overall scheme of things, it's only 4.5, 4 3/4 kilograms more than your Aluminium Hawse, your other option, but it's in the very worst position on the car to put weight, and that's the extremities. Right at the front or right at the back are the very worst places to put weight on your vehicle. And things like this, sure, that's only not even 5 kilograms difference between the two, but it all adds up. So next thing we should be looking at is fleet angle. What is fleet angle, I hear you ask? Well, that's whether it's coming in straight or on an angle onto the winch. I'll show you a diagram to explain in more detail. And here's our winch drum mounted on the front of our 4-wheel drive, and here's our roller Fairlead or Aluminium Hawse mounted to the front of our bull bar, a perpendicular line coming out. Now this is an ungrooved drum or a smooth drum. Now the maximum allowable fleet angle for it to roll smoothly onto the drum is only 1.5 degrees. I don't know about you, but that usually doesn't work out for me. So what we're going to test today is when it's coming out at right angles, so the very worst possible scenario. So you've fallen off the track and you've got a tree on the other side of the track and you're trying to winch yourself sideways back up onto the track. That's what we're testing today. So now we know the Aluminium Hawse is substantially lighter, but in use, do they produce any additional load on the winching system? That's what we're going to check out next. But first, like any good comparison, you need a control. So I'm going to put the Zook up the top of the hill. I'm going to put Kayla hanging in her 80 series on my winch rope on the side of the hill. We're going to winch her up with a load cell, and we're going to check out exactly how much force it takes to skull drag her up the hill. Let's check that out now. So our baseline is 1,348 kilograms. Now, to work out whether these introduce any additional load into the system, I'll show you the setup. Here we are at the back of the Zook, and I've got it secured to a tree with a chain. We've got the winch connected, and she heads all the way up here. And this is the double line pull heading back to the Zook. Bit of a soft shackle, and where we record the data from. And this is the 12-ton load cell. And that goes up to our adapter there, and we'll have a look on the other side of that. And there's our tow bar adapter with our winch line through it. As you can see, going down to Kayla's 80, sitting on the hill down there. About a 30-degree hill. So here's our first winch with a roller Fairlead, and all our winches are going to be about 30 seconds in duration.
So with a roller Fairlead on a 90-degree fleet angle, facing down a 35-degree hill, pretty much as bad as you'll get, it introduced an extra load of 16% or a peak of 1,532 kilograms. What about the Aluminium Hawse? Let's do that next. Pause the video, drop a comment and tell me whether you think it'd be less or more, and we'll check it out in a second. Wow, it's not looking so good for the Aluminium Hawse now, is it? 1,698 kilograms we peaked at, or an additional 26% load. Let's have a look at the more on a graph.
So here we have the load in kilograms. Now I started this graph, unusually for me, at 1,300 kilograms and topped out at 1,700. Now the reason I did that is so you can see and differentiate between the three readings. So our control, 1,348 kilograms, and we went up 13% on our control with 1,532 kilograms with the roller Fairlead, and the Aluminium Hawse an additional 13% or 26% above and beyond our control at 1,698 kilograms. So we're looking in excess of 300 extra kilograms just by using the Aluminium Hawse. It chewed an extra 300 kilograms of force on that identical double line pull, starting at exactly the same position on the hill every time. But the keen amongst you will have noticed something about the roller Fairlead test. Did you notice the rollers rolling? Well, I didn't until I got home. So even though the roller Fairlead was essentially acting as a steel horse with no moving components, it was still 13% less energy consumed. And the reason for that is what's called coefficient of friction. So the coefficient of friction in between the rope and the steel is obviously less than the rope and aluminium. So we might have to look at how we're going to get those rollers rolling under load.
So it's not looking quite so good for the Aluminium Hawse now, is it? 1,698 kilograms, or an additional 26% load. That's twice as much as the roller Fairlead. But did you notice something about the roller Fairlead under load? The rollers weren't even rolling. So I got in contact with one and I said to him, do they need to be lubricated? Perhaps they need to be lubricated. Maybe there needs to be grease or dry lubricant like molybdenum disulfide or perhaps even graphite powder. And they tell me no. So why aren't they turning? That might come in part two. Another thing we noticed, that's right, I bent the test fixture. So this was shoved in the back of Scotty's 200 series, and as you can see, it's not quite 100% straight anymore. And that is a 5mm wall, so you can imagine the loads on here. What that means is, I think I need to get myself a piece of 50mm by 50mm solid and replace this and give it another crack. So after it bent, during the testing, it was actually rubbing slightly on the back of the fixture here. So we're going to give that another crack. But at the moment, even with the rubbing, the roller Fairlead is miles and miles ahead. So what do we think in the end? Well, it depends on the design of your bull bar too. I mean, if you have a bull bar like it spots on the front of my 80 series, I designed that to work with an Aluminium Hawse, not with a roller Fairlead. So if I put a roller Fairlead on the front of that, it's going to compromise my approach angle. But on the Zook, well, the ARB bull bar on that one was designed for the roller Fairlead. And if you use an Aluminium Hawse, well, you've got to use a spacer kit, which they sell, to space it out a little bit to get it, the front of it, at the same level as it would be with a roller Fairlead. So when you're on an angle, a high angle of fleet, you don't actually rub the winch rope against the side of the bull bar. So It's horses for courses. Now, I think I might do a second video in this series and see if I can get the rollers rolling. That'll be novel. Anyway, guys, if you like this video, maybe even learn something, give us a thumbs up. And if you didn't, by all means, give us a thumbs down twice. Thanks, guys. See you in the next one. G'day, coppers. Welcome back to the bush. In this episode of Lockie Hub's Four-Wheel Driving, we're going to be checking out steel, what are they, roller something or other, roller Fairlead.